If in this very moment you are trying to heal, you are in the way of healing. I must say it bluntly so that you do not waste another hour. The instant you assume that the burden rests upon you, the person, the mind, the anxious heart, you have placed a veil between God and the appearance that seems to clamor for correction. You have taken the stand of the doer, and that, my dear, is the one position from which God cannot be revealed to you. Do not be shocked by that sentence. Sit with it. Feel what rises when I tell you, you are not the healer. The I of your being is the only healer, and it does not heal by effort. It reveals by being itself. I know the atmosphere you have lived in because I have lived in it too. An atmosphere of strain and of checking, of peering into the body or into the bank book every half hour to see if anything has moved, of keeping an inner scoreboard, +1, -2, good day, bad day, of repeating lines of truth as if many words might batter down a door, of arguing with symptoms the way a lawyer argues a case, needing to win. That is not faith. That is resistance dressed in the robes of devotion. Oh, you mean well, but the personal me in you has secretly crowned itself king, and kings do not see God. I must ask you now, before we proceed one step further, not to turn this work into a technique to get results. If you have come to get a condition fixed, put up thy sword. The minute you attempt to use God for a purpose, health, supply, success, you have already moved out of the atmosphere in which God is knowable. Be still and know that I am God. You cannot use that as a formula. You cannot use it to coax the infinite into repairing a finite picture. You can only let it use you, quieting you, emptying you, until there is no personal doer left to block the light. Be still and know that I am God. This will be our anchor, our return. You will hear it from me many times. And if you remain with this work, you will hear it from within yourself. But not yet, not until the personal will tires of its own noise. This is not a quick comfort. This is a re-education of consciousness. It will take time, measured not in days of intensity, but in steady hours of discipline. Do not hurry. Do not demand a sign. Take it as a charge, several periods each day in which you do nothing but be still. Not to get, not to change, not to impress, but to yield. No, do not argue with a symptom. Do not spy on it. The very watching for movement restarts the old machinery of fear. Your only commission at this stage is to stop being the healer and become the place of stillness where healing, if there is anything to call by that name, appears as the natural unveiling of what is. Be still and know that I am God. Let that sentence be your dismissal of the personal claimant, your refusal to take the throne. If you will accept that, we can go on. If not, do not go further, for this path will not let you keep your anxiety and find your God. For the purpose of this work, you must assume there are two of you. Not two beings, not two gods, but two levels at which you have been living. There is the personal me, call it by your name, with its dates, its resume, its old injuries and anticipations. And there is the inner I, the presence that is life itself. I must ask you to make this assumption, not philosophically, but functionally, because unless you can separate the doer from the witness, you will drag your fears into the sanctuary and call that prayer. The me is a marvelous instrument for walking, speaking, answering the phone, paying the bills, but it is a disastrous manager of reality. The I is not a manager at all. The I is the law, the life, the very substance of harmony. Be still and know that I am God.
Notice how the personal me operates.
It lives by predicting outcomes, by repairing its own forecasts when they fail, by bargaining with silence, by rehearsing brave sentences to hurl at a symptom or a circumstance, and naming the whole exercise treatment. It conjures timetables. By Tuesday, I must be free. By Thursday, I shall see improvement. And then, it writes a report on whether God has kept step. That is the mind that labors, and in its labor it throws a veil over what is already present. It thinks of God as a fixer, waiting on the far side of effort. It is sincere. Oh, I do not deny your sincerity. But sincerity in the wrong identity is still ignorance. Now hear me. The I is not a fixer. The I is your very life being itself. It cannot be coaxed, purchased, or persuaded because it is the one and only fact. When the I governs, no argument is necessary because there is nothing to oppose. There is only the revelation of what eternally is. This, then, sets the role of the person. You are not the healer, not the adjuster of conditions, not the superintendent of a failing factory. You are the beholder. You are the transparency through which I, the life of you, functions. Outwardly, it will appear that you wrote a letter, that you spoke a word, that you sat quietly and a peace entered the room. But you must know, and I insist upon this, that it was not the personal me that performed. It was I functioning, although to the eye it would look like you. Therefore you will begin to train the personal me to step down from the throne and to take its right office. Witness, instrument, transparency. How? Not by fighting it. Put up thy sword. Not by making it holy with finer phrases. That is still the me in costume. You bring it to silence. You bid it be still. You take your stand as I, not as a heroic declaration, but as quiet recognition. And you watch. Be still and know that I am God. Do not hurry this. For a time you will catch yourself slipping back into doing, and when you do, you will not scold. You will simply return to the witness. You will let the me sit in the pew while the I presides. That is the beginning of healing, because healing begins when the personal self stops being the doer and becomes the witness to the inner I. And from here, the next step is not argument, not mental combat. It is stillness, receptivity to inner government. We will enter that stillness, and in that stillness, you will learn what it is to be governed not by thought, but by presence. Be still and know that I am God. Now then, put up thy sword. Before you lift a single thought in what you call treatment, before you open your mouth to utter one syllable of truth, lay down all aggression. And let me tell you what I mean by aggression, so that you do not hide it under religious clothing. Aggression is fighting an appearance as if it had a will to oppose you. Aggression is wrestling with fear as if fear were a force. Aggression is straining for an outcome, setting a date for God, demanding evidence from the body. Aggression is using Scripture the way a soldier uses a bayonet, thrusting truth at a symptom. It is treating the mind as a courtroom, calling witnesses, cross-examining pain, and demanding a verdict. And worst of all, it is turning God into your emergency tool, your lever, your fix-it man. Be still and know that I am God. Now, no, do not misunderstand. Non-aggression is not passivity, not indifference to suffering. not a lazy consent to appearances. Non-aggression is moral intelligence. It is the refusal to meet a claim on the level of the claim. It is the recognition that if you address a mirage with buckets and pumps, you baptize the mirage with reality. Non-aggression says, "Get thee behind me, appearance," not by cursing it, not by pleading with it, but by declining to grant it law or power. You step out of the arena. You do not swing, and you do not shield. You stand. Be still and know that I am God. You will begin to notice, if you are honest, the hidden violence of your striving. The body becomes a battleground. Press here, count there. Listen for the next signal of danger. The mind becomes a courtroom. Argument piled upon argument. Appeal after appeal. A new precedent cited from yesterday's reading. And God? God becomes a tool you take down from the shelf when the case turns against you. Oh, my dear, that is why your prayer has worn you to the bone. You have tried to conquer shadow with shadow. You have treated the puppet as if it held the strings. Therefore, I must ask you, no, I must require you. If you would go on with us, never undertake healing work until you have established a complete state of non-aggression. Sit within yourself and stop defending. Stop attacking. Stop negotiating with an appearance. Refuse even the impulse to persuade God. Let the personal me retire from the field. Let the I, which is presence itself, come to view by your very refusal to contend. The moment you stop fighting the appearance, you open consciousness to the presence that dissolves it. How do you do this? You do not do it with force. You do it with surrender. You close the lips of thought. You release the clenched inward fist that says, I must, I must. And you let the ancient word address you and govern the atmosphere. Be still and know that I am God. Not a weapon, not a charm, but the dismissal of war. In that stillness, the campaign ends and governance begins. With the sword put away, we are ready to see that the claim itself has no law, no power, no authority, only what the personal me had lent it. And so we proceed, not to battle, but to stillness, where I am the doer, and harmony is revealed. Now then, with the sword sheathed and the courtroom adjourned, let us look squarely at what confronts you in modern dress. We are flooded with claims, diagnoses stamped in black ink, chronic patterns that have marched through the calendar so long you have given them a bedroom name. Inherited fears whispered at the supper table. Genetic prophecies declared by strangers in white coats. News cycles that throb like a drum until your very cells seem to tremble. Statistics that rise and fall as if they were gods. The economy, the climate. The headline that slaps you before prayer has had a chance to breathe. These parade before consciousness and say, I have power. I have law. I have history. I have proof. And you, oh, be honest, you have bowed to many of them in the dark, and then tried to pray them down. Be still and know that I am God. I must give you the principle, and you must accept it if you would go on with us. There is no power in form or effect. All power is in the I that I am. Therefore, the claim has no law to support it. A form, body, organ, germ, invoice, calendar, has no self-executing authority. An effect, pain, redness, lack, panic, has no jurisdiction in God's kingdom. The only law operative is the law of I, self-existence being itself. When I say the claim is nothingness, I do not mean that your human eyes see nothing or that your senses are wicked for reporting. No, the nothingness is this. The appearance is not an entity with authority in God's universe. It has no mandate, no constitution, no enforcement arm. It is a picture on the screen that derives its electricity from your consent, from your fear, from the personal me crowning it with borrowed power. Here is the subtle trap, and it catches even sincere students. You try to heal. In trying, you first accept the claim as power, else why would you need to heal it? And then you mobilize arguments to overcome it. You have already put the crown upon the shadow and called it your majesty. And so you hurl truth at it and grow weary, and then you write me that the work has failed. No, it has not failed. You have worked at the wrong altar. Put up thy sword. Refuse the coronation. Get thee behind me, appearance. Be still and know that I am God. Your discipline, do you hear that word? Discipline is to rest in the I and let realization, not effort, be the healer. Rest is not neglect. Rest is spiritual jurisdiction. Rest is identity assumed. I in the midst of me is God, governing. When you withhold consent, when you deny law to the picture, when you sit in the still authority of I, the appearance loses its borrowed electricity and dissolves into its native nothingness. Do not check it. Do not argue it. Do not decorate it with attention. Be the beholder who knows the law. All power is in the I that I am. From this we pass, not to new weapons, but to the stillness in which presence becomes tangible and government is felt. Be still and know that I am God. Now then, stillness is the doorway. It is not a tactic, it is jurisdiction. When I ask you to be still, I am not asking you to hypnotize your body, nor to drug your mind with pleasant pictures. No. I am instructing you to place the human instrument under the government of divine consciousness. At first you will address it firmly, gently, repeatedly, because thus far it has been your teacher, and it must now become your student. You will say within yourself, not to charm it, not to coerce it, but to assign it to its rightful office. Be still and know that I am God. You do not use those words as a spell. You speak them as a simple, solemn order, placing the me under the I. In practical terms, sit quietly. If the room is noisy, let the room be noisy. We are not silencing the world. We are consenting to a higher government. Turn to the mind that wants to count, to compare, to remember yesterday's symptom, and say, be still. Not as scolding, as authority. Turn to the body that twitches to check, that leans forward to listen for trouble, and say, be still and know that I am God. Let the words fall like gentle weights, not thrown but placed. Do not hurry. Do not dress them in emotion. Be willing for there to be no sensation at all. Be willing for 5 minutes of what feels like nothing. At first you may not enjoy it. You may not approve of it. You may resent the loss of your favorite weapon, the argument dressed up as prayer. Good. That is a sign that your idols are being asked to leave the sanctuary. You may feel sleepy. You may feel restless. You may feel nothing whatsoever. Do not judge the work by sensation. Sensation belongs to the realm of effect, and we have already denied effect all jurisdiction. The measure is not tingling skin or a heavy arm or a sweet sigh. The measure is obedience. The me stands down. The I presides. Be still and know that I am God. Now, listen carefully to this pivot, Because here is where students often fail through zeal. The goal is not perfect relaxation. The goal is receptivity. Relaxation can be achieved by a warm bath. Receptivity is achieved by surrender. You address the mind and the body only to the point where they consent to be governed. Then, this is the grace. Something within begins to address you. The very words you have spoken in obedience return, not as your voice, but as presence. Be still. Be still and know, I am here. You will find that you are no longer pushing the river, but being carried. No longer speaking to silence, but being spoken to by silence. Do not try to hold it. Do not try to make it say more. Let it govern. That is the taste of the I as doer. We will, in our next work together, take the body as student and as patient, and bring it under one government. Head, shoulders, arms, chest, spine, and feet. Slowly, reverently, without force. For now, understand the principle. You begin by addressing. You continue until addressing ceases, and you yield as the addressing turns and addresses you. Keep the anchor near, but never as a charm. Be still and know that I am God. Be still. Be. And let governance, felt not argued, come to view. Now then, let us do the work. Take the body as your student and as your patient, not to be fought, not to be forced, not to be fixed, but to be gently brought into obedience to the rhythm of the I. Assume your place, not inside the turmoil, but above, as if I am here, looking down upon my instrument, my temple, my transparency, and, without anger, without haste, bidding it to its holy office. Be still and know that I am God. Begin with the head. I am here, looking down into the brain, into all the folds and channels, not analyzing, not repairing, only placing the word. Be still. Be still and know. Behind the eyes, those restless sentries, be still. The eyelids, the muscles around the sockets, the tiny habits of squinting and searching. Be still and know that I am God. The jaw where the old arguments sit. Unclench, not by force, but by obedience. Be still. The tongue, soft palate, the quiet cave of the mouth. Be still. The throat, the narrow gate of many fears. Be still and know that I am God. Now then, the shoulders. I am here, looking down through both shoulders, as if they were corridors, and down both arms, upper arms, elbows, forearms. Be still. The wrists with their quick pulses. Be still. Into the hands, palms, and each finger to its tip. Be still and know that I am God. Not to make them heavy, not to induce sensation, simply to withdraw the me that counts and controls, and yield them to the I that governs. Turn to the chest. I am here over the breastbone, the lungs, the rise and the fall. Be still. The heart, oh yes, the heart. Not to tamper with its rhythm, not to set it right with thought, but to deny it tyranny and grant it governance. Be still and know that I am God. The diaphragm, the solar plexus, the old knot where dreads have camped. Be still. The stomach, not a battlefield, but a servant. Be still and know. Down the spine now, as if it were a hollow column, and I am looking from crown to tail, each vertebra within the government of I. be still. Between the shoulder blades, the often forgotten ache, be still. The small of the back, the sacrum, be still and know that I am God. The hips, the great hinges, be still. Into the legs, thighs, quadriceps, and hamstrings, the big muscles that want to run and to brace, be still. The knees, which have knelt to too many idols, be still and know. Calves, shins, be still. Ankles, be still. Feet know, arches and heels, the whole sole of each foot, be still and know that I am God. To the toes, yes, each one named only by presence, be still. Do not hurry. If a thought rises to check, to test, to see whether anything has changed, quietly turn its face to the altar. Be still. If a sensation comes, greet it without ownership, and bid it also be still. We are not producing effects. We are yielding government. Continue until there is a subtle sign. No fireworks, no chorus, just a soft interior letting go. A sense that you are not carrying yourself, but that life is carrying you. When that comes, even lightly, do not seize it. Let it bear you. Let it address you. Let it say from within, without syllable and yet unmistakable, I am here. This is the meaning of one government. The body, quieted without force, becomes receptive to the presence that constitutes harmony. Remain a moment more in the hush that follows command, not commanding now, but consenting. Be still and know that I am God. Be still. I am. Now then, notice what happens the very moment the hush settles. Almost at once there creeps in a little voice. Is it gone? Is it working? Has anything changed? And with that single movement, you step down from the altar and take up the instruments of the laboratory. In that instant, the personal me resumes control. The witness jumps back into the judge's chair, and the stillness becomes a waiting room for results. And you do not see that this is the very veil we have laid aside, returning to cover the face of presence. Be still and know that I am God. Measuring is the subtlest form of aggression. It looks innocent. It calls itself prudence. It calls itself stewardship. But hear me. When you ask the appearance to certify the activity of God, you enthrone the appearance as lawgiver. You make effect the authority over cause. You turn to a symptom, a calendar, a number, and say, "Tell me whether God is here." Oh, my dear, do you see the blasphemy hidden in courtesy clothing? You have taken the position that I must be proven, and thus you have denied I as self-evident. The search for proof restarts the struggle because it reestablishes two powers, the I and the claim. Put up thy sword. Refuse the coronation. Be still and know that I am God. I must reframe for you what proof means in this work. Demonstration is a byproduct of realization, never the target of effort. When realization dawns, when I, the life of you, is consciously recognized as the only law, harmony appears as naturally as morning follows night. You do not strain to produce dawn, and you do not tug at a petal to hurry its bloom. If you aim at proof, you tighten the mind, you shorten the breath, you step back into doing. If you aim at realization, no, not aim, but rest, you discover that what you called proof arrives unannounced, without trumpet, because it was never absent except to the measuring mind. Be still and know that I am God. Here, then, is the practice, and I will not soften it with easy words. The moment you catch the measuring impulse, and you will many times, do not condemn yourself. Do not make a second sin out of the first. Simply, quietly, return. Turn the face of that thought to the altar and bid it, be still. Do it as often as necessary, 10 times in a minute if need be, 500 times in a day, without drama and without despair. Each return is not failure. Each return is fidelity. Each return is the me learning obedience and the I assuming government. Be still and know that I am God. Now, do not mistake this for negligence of human duty. You will keep your appointments, you will do your tasks, you will sign what must be signed, and take the steps to which you are inwardly assigned. But you will not allow the body, the bank book, the clock, or the headline to set the agenda of your consciousness. You will not ask a shadow to verify the sun. You will let I be the doer, and let forms report as they may, refusing them authority even as you handle them responsibly. Get thee behind me, appearance. Be still. When measuring subsides, even if only for a breath, you will begin to feel the difference between repairing a picture and realizing presence. And from that threshold, we can say what must be said next. Healing is realization, not repair. But first, let the hand fall from the scale. Be still and know that I am God. Now we can say the sentence cleanly, without embroidery. Healing is realization, not repair. Repair assumes that something stands in front of God with a claim to reality, and that you, armed with verses, must push it off the stage. Realization does not push. Realization perceives what is, and what is God. Where the claims seem to be, presence is discovered as all law, all life, all substance. Be still and know that I am God. Consider this quietly. If you turn on a light, do you repair the darkness? No. You do not argue with it. You do not sweep it into a corner. You do not fix its texture. You simply reveal what already fills the room, and darkness is shown to be without substance. In the same way, when the allness of God is realized, not declared with clenched teeth, but realized, the false sense drops into its native nothingness. There is no struggle, no triumph of one power over another, because there never were two. Put up thy sword. Get thee behind me, appearance. Be still and know that I am God. This is why I must insist that you do not attempt to use truth as a club. Truth is not a cudgel to batter a symptom. The moment you strike, you have granted the symptom opposing power and enrolled yourself in combat. Let the truth you know become the truth you are. Let it ripen from words into atmosphere. Quietly, steadily, you abide, until the letter loosens its grip and the spirit of it breathes you. Then, without fanfare, activity that is not yours begins to function, presence revealing itself as harmony. Outwardly, there may be a change in the body, in the circumstance, in the account, and it will be called healing. But you will know, listen to me, you will know it is not your goodness, not your intensity, not your spiritual vocabulary. It is the I in the midst of you, being itself. Do not be fooled by early successes, or discouraged by early stillness that feels barren. Knowing the correct letter of truth is only a step. It is of no power except as it becomes a constituted part of your consciousness. Constituted, do you hear? Built in, embodied, operative without strain. And that comes as you return and return and return to the altar of stillness until realization is not an event, but a state. Be still and know that I am God. Therefore, your work is not to fix pictures. Your work is to refuse them power and to abide in the I, until the only fact standing is the presence that was never absent. Then what you call healing appears as the natural report of realized oneness. From here we move to training, daily disciplined stillness, so that what has touched you becomes stable, so that the me no longer borrows the throne even for an hour, and the I governs as a continuous realization. Be still. Be willing. Remain until I addresses you, and let what is true, not what seems, be the law of your consciousness. Now then, let me say it without softening. Knowing the correct letter of truth is only a step. It is of no power to you except as it becomes a constituted part of your consciousness, built in, not borrowed, functioning, not recited. You may quote me, you may quote scripture, you may outline the principle flawlessly, but until it operates as the very atmosphere of your awareness, it remains a lovely theory sitting in a drawer while the personal me runs the office. Our work is to transmute the letter into life, and the only crucible for that alchemy is daily, disciplined stillness. Be still and know that I am God. Therefore, I must require a season. Not a weekend enthusiasm, a season. It will take you not less than 3 to 4 months to successfully accomplish this meditation, so that it begins to function of itself. During this season, you will set aside daily periods, unhurried, without dramatics, morning and evening at minimum, and if possible, a third period in the afternoon. Do not make a ceremony of it. Sit, take your stand as witness, and bring the body and mind under one government with that simple, solemn order. Be still and know that I am God. Remain until the push to accomplish falls away and a quiet receptivity appears. Some days you will feel barren, some days sleepy, some days sweet. None of that is the measure. Obedience is the measure. Return tomorrow and do it again. I must add the micro resets. Several times during the day, 5 minutes only. Step back into the inner seat of I and bid the instrument be still. In a parked car, at a desk, on a bench outside a store, wherever life finds you, close the door of thought and simply, gently, without force, re-establish jurisdiction. Be still. Shoulders, be still. Heart, be still. Mind that wants to count, be still and know that I am God. These little returns are not extras. They are the stitching that keeps the garment from unraveling between longer periods. Do not use them to check results. Use them to yield government. Now about the hard work. The hard work is not to force God, not to strain for light, not to wring a promise out of heaven. The hard work is to clarify thought, to purify motive, to strip away the habit of personal control. It is the refusal to use God for a purpose, the refusal to argue, the refusal to time the demonstration. It is letting the me stand down from the throne and remain content as beholder, while I, the life of you, governs. Put up thy sword. Get thee behind me appearance. Be still and know that I am God. As this discipline is kept, demonstration will begin to appear. Not because God has changed his mind, but because consciousness has ceased to waver. At first, the proofs may seem small. A fear that loosens its grip, a pressure that dissolves, a circumstance that untangles without your arranging. Do not despise the day of small things. The Wright brothers flew 57 seconds and proved the air would bear us. So your first quiet proof, however modest, proves principle to you. With each fidelity to stillness, the letter ripens into living awareness. What once required an hour of addressing begins to operate of itself. Then larger claims will appear on the same altar and meet the same law. Not by your might, but because the I has become the very substance of your seeing. So set your schedule. Keep it sacred and secret. Do not hurry. Do not boast. Several times each day, return for 5 minutes to the inner seat and let the instrument be still. Daily, give the longer periods their due until the practice ceases to be something you do and becomes what you are. Truth becomes effective only as practiced stillness that matures into stable consciousness. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and let demonstration report what realization has already established. Now then, there comes a moment. Do not schedule it. Do not announce it to yourself. When the words you have faithfully spoken begin to turn and speak themselves. At first you repeat, "Be still and know that I am God," because discipline requires it, because the instrument needs the command. You place the words like gentle weights upon the mind and the body until the me consents to be governed. And then, quietly, without trumpet, there is a soft interior shift. The same words come, but they do not come from you. They arrive as if breathed through you, not uttered by you. Be still, and know, I am here. You recognize the difference. No excitement, no tremor to prove a point, only a calm certainty that does not ask permission and does not require applause. Do not run after this. Do not make a shrine around the sensation of it. Scripture must not be a charm in your hand. It must be companionship within you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. When that is heard from within, it is not your mind reading a line. It is presence making itself known, not as sentence, but as assurance. You will know it by what it does not do. It does not argue. It does not rush. It does not recruit you to a campaign. It rests in itself, and in its rest, you find your rest. Be still and know that I am God. Discernment is necessary here, and I will not leave you without a rule. Emotion may come or not. Neither is the measure. If you hunt for sweetness, you are back in the marketplace, pricing God by sensation. The sign of true addressing is governance. Thought no longer leans forward to bargain. The body stops listening for danger. Time takes its hands off your throat. A quiet authority occupies the atmosphere, and you, still you, but not struggling you, abide as beholder. The me has not become holy. It has become obedient. The I is doing the doing. At this point, healing deepens. Not because a second power has conquered a first, but because fear loses its supplier. When presence is consciously felt, the scaffolding that holds the claim together, memory, prognosis, statistics, yesterday's shock, finds nothing to anchor to. The picture cannot maintain itself in a consciousness occupied by the I. You will notice it not by fireworks, but by absence. The clutch in the stomach is not consulted. The urge to measure forgets to appear. The form that shouted yesterday speaks today in a smaller voice, and before long, it does not speak at all. Do not turn to check. Do not crown the picture again. Be still and know that I am God. From here, your life begins to change its weather. You are less preoccupied with private emergencies and more engaged in living under a steady government. The same tasks, the same phone calls, the same errands. Yet you carry a hush that does not belong to any room and does not leave when you step into a crowded one. In the car, in a corridor, over a sink full of dishes, there it is. Not you, but through you. Fear not, I am with you. You do not paste these words onto situations. You discover they are the atmosphere in which all situations take place. Keep this holy and keep it secret. Do not turn it into a badge. Let it address you more often than you address it. Your practice becomes less a reaching and more a receiving, less a request and more a recognition. And in that recognition, the promise stands, quiet and unbreakable. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Put up thy sword. Be still. Let the I be the doer, and let what you call healing be the natural report of a life already held. Now then, keep this holy and keep it secret. I must ask you, do not turn this work into a badge. The deepest things are weighty only when they are carried where no applause can reach. All worship loses its authority when paraded. It becomes theater, and theater is for eyes, not for God. If the word, be still and know that I am God, is used to impress, to recruit, to prove a point at supper, it is already emptied. What has been entrusted to you is not for exhibition. It is for sincerity. It is for that inner room where doors are shut and motives are known. Be still and know that I am God. I warn you tenderly and firmly. If this teaching gets into the wrong hands, it is twisted into an alibi for laziness. They hear, stop trying, and translate it, do nothing. They hear, put up thy sword, and lay down duty. No, that is not our way. Non-aggression is not neglect. Receptivity is not indolence. This is disciplined surrender, disciplined. Your errands are still yours. Your signatures are still yours. Your appointments are kept with care. Only the throne has changed occupants. The me is relieved of command, and the I governs. If you shirk responsibility in the name of stillness, you have not found the altar. You have found a hiding place. Be still and know that I am God. Another warning, and I will not soften it. Do not turn stillness into identity theater. Do not collect techniques like charms on a bracelet and jingle them in public. Do not speak of your periods, your candles, your postures, as if the accessories were the presence. Do not use this vocabulary to control another, to win an argument, to signal superiority. If you do, the life goes out of it and you are left with words. Never undertake healing work until you have established yourself in a complete state of non-aggression. Never teach this until it has begun to function of itself within you. I must ask you not to pass this on until you yourself have completely mastered it. You have permission, in fact, you have liberty in the outward forms. Kneel if you are led. Sit in a chair. Walk softly in a garden. Light a candle as a private symbol. But keep the purpose of it secret. Let the act be between you and God. Allow no witness except the one who witnesses you. Speak less of the practice and practice more. If someone asks, give them your peace, not your program. Be still and know that I am God. Understand the protective reason. Secrecy in this sense is not shame. It is guardianship. Seedlings are not placed on windy ledges. The hush that accompanies true addressing cannot live long in the currents of curiosity and comparison. The moment you boast of being addressed, do you see? You step back into the me that seeks to be noticed, and presence becomes a story instead of governance. Keep silence and let your life speak. Quietly, steadily, let the fruit appear without trumpet. Let your yes be yes, your duty be done, and your heart be an altar no one can see. Be still and know that I am God. From here we are ready to gather the whole teaching into a single daily rule. Simple, spare, unfailing. A rule that prevents relapse into striving and protects you from the vanity of display. We will state it and we will live it. Be still. Refuse power to appearances, and let the I be the doer. Put up thy sword, keep the work secret, and let what is true, not what is talked about, carry your days. Now then, the closing rule for every claim is as spare as it is absolute. Be still. Refuse power to appearances, and let the I be the doer. That is the arc we have walked together, from the warning against striving, through the recognition that there are two of you, the personal me and the inner I. From putting up the sword of aggressive prayer to refusing power to form, effect, or condition. From addressing the body into being addressed by presence. From the letter rehearsed to the demonstration lived. All of it gathers into this. Be still and know that I am God. Here is your protocol for any flare-up, any shout from the senses or from the world. First, stop. Do not run for a book. Do not compose an argument. Do not telephone for sympathy. Inwardly, lay down the weapon. Put up thy sword. Step back to the true seat. Acknowledge, I am not the fixer. I am the witness. Then, gently, without force, place the government of I upon the instrument. Head, be still. Jaw and tongue, be still. Shoulders and arms, be still. Heart, be still and know. Spine, hips, legs, feet, be still. Mind that wants to count and compare, be still and know that I am God. Do not address the symptom. Address the me that would enthrone it. Get thee behind me, appearance. There is no law in effect. All law is in the I that I am. What you must not do is as vital as what you must. Do not argue with the claim. Argument grants it audience and authority. Do not bargain with God. Bargaining presumes two powers at a table. Do not measure by the minute. Measuring reinstates the judge's bench and calls the appearance to testify against presence. Each time you catch yourself checking, gently return. No drama, no despair. Return to the altar. Be still and know that I am God. And now the expectation, and I do not modify it. Keep at this daily for a season, not less than 3 to 4 months, until the practice begins to function of itself. Give your unhurried periods morning and evening, and if you can, a third. Stitch your day with brief returns. The sign you are no longer doing the work is unmistakable. The peace of God descends. The strain is gone. The pressure to produce proof has no breath in it. You will find yourself carried, addressed, governed, without plan and without push. Then the promise fulfills itself, not by contest, but by revelation. The moment you stop forcing healing, you enter the stillness where God does the work. Presence reveals itself as the only law, and the appearance, unfed and unfeared, yields without battle into its native nothingness. Keep the work secret. Keep the posture non-aggressive. Keep the return immediate. Be still. Refuse power to appearances, and let the I be the doer. Be still and know that I am God.